In the bustling Muyang city, the lights are bright in the evening. Pedestrians come and go in constant streams. Several people staying at the inn felt bored and decided to go out for a stroll together. Soon, a magnificent 11-story building came into view. Several girls' eyes lit up, and they hurriedly walked into the building together. Upon reaching the lingerie section, Blue Autumn Yun immediately covered her nose. There were maid costumes, swimsuits, and various other clothing items that exposed the teenage girls' figures. The craftsmanship was extremely conscientious. The most scarce fabrics are used to showcase the most beautiful and enticing figures of the teenagers. Moreover, it is extremely convenient. It is worth the high prices and caters to various tastes. It can highlight the body's contours, while also concealing the most mysterious areas. Often, this semi-revealing attire is the most alluring. Just thinking about it can't help but make the blood boil. Blue Autumn Yun chuckled. If the girls were to wear these, just the thought of it would be somewhat exciting. After a moment, Elegant Ling held the selected clothing in her arms. She glanced around quickly and hurriedly ran over while no one was looking. She swiftly took out a semi-transparent bellyband from the hanger, along with a short skirt and stockings. Blushing and running away quickly, Elegant Ling felt extremely embarrassed. She thought to herself that she might need it one day, so she decided to buy it first and worry about it later. After a while, Aurelia Luo also adopted the same posture. When she saw that no one was paying attention around her, she took out a set of secretary outfit and stockings that could reveal her figure. She gritted her teeth and then grabbed the lace leg garter. Then she continued to casually pick out clothes as if nothing had happened. But when they finished picking out a large pile of items, they found that the prices were far beyond their budget. Blue Autumn Yun was shocked by the large bags and packages in the hands of the women, as well as the attendants following behind, pushing full shopping carts. Apart from clothes, there were also some jewelry and spiritual artifacts. Isn't it not just a little bit, but a billion bits? They were almost going to empty out this store. Are they buying clothes, or are they buying the whole store? Blue Autumn Yun hesitated. He didn't mind spending money, but there have been many cultivators and evil cultivators in Muyang City recently. Carrying so many things with him would definitely attract unnecessary trouble when going out. This was really not in line with his low-key personality. At this moment, Elegant Ling stood with her hands behind her back, awkwardly smiling. Then she looked at Blue Autumn Yun and sweetly called out, "Dad." Blue Autumn Yun was shocked and fell into silence. The effect was outstanding. Aurelia Luo approached Blue Autumn Yun and whispered in her ear, "Dad, I want one too." Ariel Mu also nodded silly and said, "Dad, Dad." Blue Autumn Yun couldn't have imagined that Elegant Ling would resort to this trick. Blue Autumn Yun reluctantly walked downstairs to the counter to find a servant to tally the prices. He still had over 20,000 spiritual stones in his storage ring, more than enough to pay for these clothes. However, he will need to stay in Muyang City for a long time. He also wants to help the girls improve their strength. He will buy some more medicinal materials himself. The upcoming expenses are still quite substantial. There may be other expenses as well. By such calculations, the plunder from the evil cultivator's side is also not enough to make up for it. So he used his divine sense to scan the storage ring that Rinheim gave him to find out how much treasure was inside. After seeing the items inside, he found that the storage ring was filled with valuable objects and spiritual stone savings cards. The payment was equivalent to the price of 5th-ranked Dan pills. That Dan pill is worth tens of thousands of spiritual stones. But the funds given by Rinheim far exceeded that. The spiritual stones cards even reached a terrifying denomination of 1 million. It is estimated that the merchant association to which this pavilion belongs could probably acquire 2 or 3 of them. The strongest Blue Emperor is also unable to withstand the power of the Immortal Maiden calling for her father. Fortunately, he obtained a storage ring from Rinheim, which contains a spiritual stones card with a considerable amount. Just as Blue Autumn Yun was about to check out, a young man in a robe descended the stairs from the upper level. His bored eyes wandered around. Everyone was joyfully carrying numerous packages. The young man's face was filled with sleepiness and boredom. Just as he was about to go downstairs to check out, his gaze suddenly stopped at Elegant Ling, Aurelia Luo, and Ariel Mu. After seeing the three girls, one with a plump figure, one slender and graceful, he couldn't help but stare. He comes from a significant power in the blue vast domain, and has a wide range of knowledge and experience. Even the beautiful girls on the Immortal Maiden list have been seen multiple times. But when it comes to their profiles or back views alone, they fall short by quite a bit, lacking the aura and agility of immortals. He pondered for a moment. Song Yin lifted his chin towards the female guards behind him, signaling them to pay the bill. Then he straightened out his clothes. He slowly walked down the steps towards Elegant Ling and the others. The three girls felt very honored to meet Song Yin from the Blue Vast Domain Soaring Fire Sect here. Upon hearing the three words, Soaring Fire Sect, Elegant Ling and the three girls exchanged a glance. Soaring Fire Sect has a great reputation in the Blue Vast Domain and can be considered a major power. They couldn't help but be surprised to encounter such a powerful force from the domain level in Muyang City. They showed no intention of interacting, but the young man faintly exuded a strong sense of threat. Behind him were several attendants whose cultivation level was unclear. To avoid trouble, Aurelia Luo hesitated for a moment. She nodded and said, "Mr. Song, what can I help you with?" Song Yin laughed heartily several times. Seeing the several graceful and charming ladies, he couldn't help but feel delighted. He did not expect that Muyang City still had such celestial beauties. "I wonder under which cultivation sect do you, ladies, hail from, Immortal Maidens? May I know your names?" Aurelia Luo frowned. She felt somewhat annoyed by this person. But this person has quite a prominent background. It's not wise to provoke him. She politely refused Song Yin and, saying something, she pulled Elegant Ling and Ariel Mu to leave quickly. However, Song Yin took a step forward to block their way. He said thoughtfully, "Ladies, it seems that you like the clothes here. I have some means. If you don't mind, I can pay for your purchases." Elegant Ling did not show any gratitude. She said, "Thank you for your kindness, but someone else has already offered to pay for us." Upon hearing this, Song Yin furrowed his eyebrows slightly, feeling displeased in his heart. However, he still maintained a polite smile on his face. "Your friends who are Immortal Maidens must also be beauties. Where can they be recommended?" "Did you call me?" A voice came from behind. Song Yin turned around to see a young man in a blue and white robe. Blue Autumn Yun looked around and probably understood what had happened. "Are you friends with all the Immortal Maidens?" Song Yin looked up and scanned Blue Autumn Yun. He carefully sensed his aura and attire. A few seconds later, he concluded that this guy was just an ordinary small cultivator. He couldn't help but feel contempt in his heart. Blue Autumn Yun chuckled and said, "Friend, you're mistaken. I am their father." Song Yin was momentarily unable to understand this relationship. Blue Autumn Yun smiled lightly and explained carefully. "It means their husbands' nicknames when playing jokes." "Got it?" Elegant Ling and Aurelia Luo instantly blushed with embarrassment and didn't know what to do. He actually said such words directly. Song Yin was stunned for a few seconds, feeling inexplicably angry. "With your behavior, are you worthy of being friends with these three Immortal Maidens?" But when he looked at the shy expressions and the deep resentment in the eyes of the other two girls, he couldn't help but think that they had some kind of relationship with him. These girls seemed to be intimate with this guy. They were cold towards him, who came from the blue vast domain, but showed a tender affection towards him. With a shy expression, Song Yin felt a surge of jealousy. In an instant, his mouth was full of a lemony taste. Song Yin still had a smile on his face. But the smile had turned cold and unpleasant. "Wait, it was destiny that I met the Immortal Maidens. You have bought a lot of things in bulk, but they do not match their status. I plan to buy some jewelry from the high-end stores to gift to them. Please wait a little longer." Song Yin sneered with his arms crossed. Judging from the packages of the girls, it seems they do not have the money to buy items from high-end stores. He aimed to display financial power that the kid couldn't match, achieving what young people couldn't easily do. He intended to humiliate the boy in front of these girls by extravagantly spending money. He wanted to show these girls the immense power of the blue vast domain. Elegant Ling and Aurelia Luo are already very repelled by Song Yin at this point, and have also seen through his thoughts. Elegant Ling is starting to lose her patience. No need to bother anymore. If there's nothing else, we'll leave. Song Yin nodded proudly and looked at the ladies with a smile. If the Immortal Maidens are interested, I can take you to kill some evil cultivators tomorrow. It's a pity that your beauty doesn't make it to the Immortal Maidens ranking. Blue Autumn Yun couldn't help but be speechless. Showing off wealth is one thing, but even saying in front of oneself to take girls to cultivate is another. Aurelia Luo thought for a few seconds. She glanced at Blue Autumn Yun and then gave a faint smile. Since the gentleman has such intentions, this lady shall not be disrespectful. Ariel Mu looked at Aurelia Luo in bewilderment, about to pull Aurelia Luo's arm. Aurelia Luo gently patted the back of Ariel Mu's hand. Elegant Ling chuckled thoughtfully. The gentleman is really willing to spend money. Song Yin felt relieved as the two beauties had changed their attitude towards him. This is probably related to his offer to help eliminate the evil cultivator just now. After all, material wealth and reputation are almost everyone's pursuits. The allure of the Immortal Maiden ranking is not trivial for such beauties like them. Ascending to the top floor, Song Yin scanned through many accessories and robes. He was calculating the prices in his mind. He comes from a wealthy background and has a lot of money on him. It's no problem for him to buy half of the top floor. However, he is a bit reluctant as the cost of chasing girls has increased. He is just feeling inexplicably distressed. But watching the girls twist their waists and hips, he felt restless in his heart. Looking at those attractive facial contours, what kind of charm will they display on the bed? With gritted teeth, Song Yin said quite suavely, I'll take all the goods on this floor and the next 2 floors. The shopkeeper of the building came here a moment later. It's the gentleman who wants to buy all the items on these floors. Song Yin didn't even look up, but his tone was full of smugness. I, the shopkeeper, helped to take care of it, and I hope it will be done quickly. Don't keep the Immortal Maidens waiting too long. But the shopkeeper looked embarrassed. This gentleman is really sorry and cannot sell. Song Yin stared coldly at the middle-aged shopkeeper. The uncontrollable release of killing intent emanated from him. He not only did not flatter when buying in bulk. On the contrary, the shopkeeper was so disrespectful. The shopkeeper was extremely panicked, repeatedly bowing and apologizing. Wiping away sweat, he said, Sir, I certainly didn't mean to offend. It's just that this shop has already been purchased by another person. A lowly disciple from the Soaring Fire sect actually wants to steal Blue Emperor's woman. Not only does he flaunt his wealth in front of him, but he even wants to buy things for Blue Emperor's woman. Blue Autumn Yun happened to come strolling by at this moment. The shopkeeper at the pavilion respectfully bowed and greeted. The one who bought this building is indeed this gentleman. Song Yin was suddenly taken aback. The goods in this shop and the pavilion combined cost at least 500,000 spiritual stones. How could this kid possibly afford it? The shopkeeper of the pavilion didn't want to linger in this place filled with the smell of gunpowder. Quickly, he handed a black card to Blue Autumn Yun. Seeing the black card, Song Yin and his group's faces twitched. Only those who have 1,000,000 spiritual stones are eligible to use such a card. Even for the Soaring Fire sect, this is still a considerable fortune. This guy turns out to be a big spendthrift. Song Yin was not convinced. He casually took out a jade plaque from his storage ring and threw it to Blue Autumn Yun, indicating that he had something to do tonight. Otherwise, he would have to teach this kid a lesson. Late at night, moonlight seeped through the window curtains into the room. Blue Autumn Yun held a jade plaque with intricate patterns. It emitted strange and colorful hues. The patterns on the jade plaque were quite complex. On the front side, there was a slumbering demon fox. Although its eyes were closed, it gave a sense of being observed, causing an inexplicable sense of palpitation. The demon fox's narrow 9 tails extended all the way to the back of the jade plaque, forming a circular pattern resembling a twisted vortex. When reflected, it could be seen as an ancient demonic character. Blue Autumn Yun pondered for a moment, then opened the window in the corridor and left. The silk-like venomous haze spread outward from the depths of the mountains outside the city, making the whole city exceptionally dark. Since the appearance of the Spirit Spring phenomenon outside Muyang City, the spirit herbs have been growing rapidly, attracting numerous herb pickers every night, including mutants. They have even built small villages in the wilderness of Muyang City. However, as night falls, a venomous haze suddenly appears in the mountains without warning, slowly spreading outward, making it impossible to continue harvesting herbs for a while. These herb gatherers' eyes have a strange color in their pupils, and their movements have become somewhat sluggish, showing signs of poisoning. Many cultivators, like Blue Autumn Yun, also headed towards the deep mountains. Upon discovering the symptoms of the herb gatherers, they dispersed the looming demonic energy, and then swiftly drove them away to continue on their journey. The intermittent clues have gradually allowed Blue Autumn Yun to piece things together. The sudden changes in Muyang City. Those evil cultivators using the spirit-eared cat are clearly searching for something. However, after obtaining the Demon Emperor Palace Jade Plaque, Blue Autumn Yun has a rough idea of the possible direction. The item that the evil cultivators are searching for is very likely the sacred object of the Demon Emperor Palace, the Myriad Monster Orb. The Myriad Monster Orb is indeed excellent. However, it is of no use to Blue Autumn Yun. The one who can control the Myriad Monster Orb is the Phantom Fiend body, which is one of the 3 types of physiques he needs. The Demon Emperor Palace has already declined, even disappeared. Naturally, the difficulty of finding the Phantom Fiend body is immense. But now there are relevant clues. Blue Autumn Yun will certainly not let this opportunity slip by. He put on the wig, activated his spiritual energy to change his appearance slightly, then casually glanced around before heading towards another dense forest. When he found a thin area of venomous haze, and was about to investigate, suddenly a graceful and familiar figure appeared beside him. The figure also noticed Blue Autumn Yun, and immediately walked over, with a charming smile. The figure slowly approached from the darkness. A close-fitting robe with scarce fabric. The white legs were very eye-catching in the night. Her face was adorned with a half-mask. You could tell from the upturned corners of her lips that she was smiling. Blue Autumn Yun was surprised. It was a bit unexpected to unexpectedly meet Rinheim here. Rinheim nodded slightly and bowed to Blue Autumn Yun. Why did the adult appear here? Could it be because the night is long and the adult is a bit lonely? Feeling restless and unable to bear it, she came out to seek amusement. If that's the case, Rinheim can accompany you for a while. Blue Autumn Yun ignored it, and continued to inspect venomous haze. Rinheim, however, followed behind Blue Autumn Yun. She gently pulled her clothes to reveal her shoulders. Today I am wearing black fishnet attire on my upper and lower body. Surely it will add a lot of fun, she said, as her fingers restlessly moved towards Blue Autumn Yun's abdomen. Her fingers teased, as if trying to arouse evil desires. Blue Autumn Yun was speechless and quickly dodged. The woman's fingers touched venomous haze, leaving a slightly black dew on her fingertips. It can be seen that this woman had just emerged from the depths of the venomous haze in the mountains. He recalled that this woman had asked him for help in refining the luminous spirit 7-flower den pill. It seems she is going to search for the Myriad Monster Orb. Blue Autumn Yun was also not bothering to beat around the bush with her. He straightforwardly asked her if she had found the Myriad Monster Orb. Upon hearing this, Rinheim's smile gradually stiffened. Panic arose in her eyes. This matter is extremely confidential in the cultivation world. Perhaps besides that person in the blue vast domain, no one else knows about it. She couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat, feeling a deep sense of dread towards Blue Autumn Yun. Blue Autumn Yun sighed and walked forward. Just tell her not to go and mess with that thing. Rinheim's curiosity was further aroused. She watched Blue Autumn Yun's back, and shook her head slightly. Then she turned to look at the pervasive smoke. Taking out another Dan pills, she was about to enter again. Just as she was about to swallow it, only to see a few strong auras coming from the depths of the smoke, more than a dozen figures swiftly rushing out of the fog. The cultivator in a golden robe at the front immediately cursed loudly upon seeing Rinheim. That demoness hasn't run far from here. Rinheim's figure moved. A lingering afterimage swiftly flew towards the direction of Myong City. A huge sword shadow rushed out rapidly. The sword shadow pierced the ground, setting off a strong explosion of spiritual energy. Clumps of soil and trees flying in the air blocked Rinheim's path. Those figures all went crazy and charged forward together. They ran around Rinheim, surrounding her. Taking out the spiritual artifact, they glared angrily at Rinheim. Rinheim looked at them and sighed slightly. Her white wrist emerged from her sleeve. Between her fingers were several silver needles shimmering with a cold light. Her eyes quickly searched for vulnerabilities. Upon seeing a few cultivators with slightly weaker strength above, she directly flew up towards them. The surrounding cultivators all turned around and encircled her to attack together. Rinheim tilted her body to brush past the long swords wielded by two cultivators. She kept moving backward and then swiftly flipped over. A sword shadow grazed her face. Rinheim smiled lightly and swiftly scattered the silver needles from her hand. Many cultivators immediately used spiritual artifacts to defend themselves. Cultivators with weaker strength used protective chi shields that were unexpectedly pierced like bubbles. The silver needles hit the bodies of those cultivators directly. Then, the ends of those silver needles revealed hidden threads in the darkness. Rinheim lightly pulled on the threads with her fingers, causing the 5 cultivators hit by the silver needles to instantly fall heavily to the ground, unable to move. They then stood up like puppets. Rinheim showed a disdainful and contemptuous smile. She pulled her hands, tightening the threads. Those cultivators turned into manipulated puppets and rushed towards the remaining cultivator together. Sword shadows and various spirit techniques bombarded. Rinheim left behind traces of fox shadows beside her. She dodged many incoming attacks. She then took out a katana as tall as a person from the storage ring and swung it. She lightly licked the blade with her tongue, spraying a drop of blood onto it. The katana immediately flashed a crimson eerie gleam. The scarlet flame spread gently from the blade to both sides, giving off an ominous and mysterious aura. Blue Autumn Yin touched his chin as he watched the battle. Rinheim's style of attack is indeed quite novel. He rarely recalls seeing such a scene in his memory. It seems to be not from this immortal cultivation region. In no time, Rinheim single-handedly resisted 11 cultivators without falling behind. Only to see the leader of the cultivators in a golden robe emitting strong spiritual energy fluctuations. A giant demon ape phantom appeared on his body, and his aura was extremely violent. The other 2 cultivators also started to act. One of them took out more than 10 flying swords from his back. One of them used the technique of controlling beasts to summon more than 10 spiritual beasts. Rinheim continued to jump backward repeatedly. At this moment, 2 white demon wolves rushed towards Rinheim, viciously biting at her. The 2 shadows beside her immediately stepped in to block the attacks. At the same time, Rinheim instinctively swung wildly, colliding with a dozen sword shadows. The clash resulted in a deafening explosion. Rinheim's body slid back along the ground, her knees supporting her. While the sword cultivator's face turned red, he quickly suppressed the disordered spiritual energy. Rinheim narrowed her eyes. Her figure scattered in a dazzling manner. She grasped the katana with both hands and quickly rushed forward as if staking her life on it. The cultivator in a golden robe sneered and also rushed forward with clenched fists. Just as they were about to collide head-on, Rinheim suddenly shifted her body and brushed past the cultivator in the golden robe. She forcefully withstood the pursuit with the katana, and her figure burst into a flash. Then she quickly rushed to the side of Blue Autumn Yun, staggered a few steps before falling down. Rinheim knelt on the ground and gently tugged at Blue Autumn Yun's trousers. She reached out a delicate hand, swaying it in front of Blue Autumn Yun's abdomen, cooing softly, "Adult, I'd beg for a piggyback ride. Later, I'll help you polish your sword, okay? I came here kneeling. The charming fox woman was surrounded by a group of cultivators after stealing the spirit herb. In her desperation, she tightly grabbed onto the Blue Emperor's leg. Blue Autumn Yin never expected that one day, while enjoying a meal, she would end up eating herself. He faced the coquettish woman's flirting and selling cuteness. Blue Autumn Yin was amazed and couldn't help twitching his mouth. He also looked at Renheim, who was kneeling beside him with great disdain. Is this what you call your ace move, trying to seek favor? In an instant, Blue Autumn Yin also became the focus of the whole scene. Renheim sat on the ground pulling at his clothes. Full of vulnerability, the delicate woman begged her scumbag husband not to abandon her with a sense of déjà vu. He suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Blue Autumn Yin lifted up the clothes. Renheim held on tightly and wouldn't let go, leaving a trail on the grass. Blue Autumn Yin sighed and held Renheim's shoulders with both hands. Lifted Renheim up as easily as pulling up a spring onion. Renheim was pulled and exposed her snowy white shoulders. The curves wrapped in fishnet clothing were alluring. Renheim let out a soft gasp in response. Blue Autumn Yin looked speechless. Gasping my ass, I just pulled you a bit. Renheim looked very wronged as she looked at Blue Autumn Yin. But just one tug and I'm gone. This is the first person to drive him crazy since Shushu. Blue Autumn Yin knows she can't win the argument against her, so she simply stopped speaking too much. 3 golden core cultivators leaped over to surround the two. The one in the golden robe glanced at Blue Autumn Yin, thinking she could offer some resistance. Quickly hand over those spirit herbs. I might go easy on you since you are a woman. Renheim covered her mouth and chuckled. She replied in a very disdainful tone. Go easy on me? My legs are right here. I don't need your mercy. What a joke. Renheim leaned against Blue Autumn Yin and said coquettishly, Sir, could you please help me? I only took a little bit of spirit herb. Just toss over a few Dan pills casually to resolve the crisis. Later, this young lady will definitely repay you well. Blue Autumn Yin looked at her silently. It's really just a bit of spirit herb. A few golden core cultivators can get so excited about it. She even used her family's unique skills. Renheim stretched out her fingers, counting one by one. Just a few hundred with spirit flower fruits, a dozen eternal youth herbs, 5 lavender gray saplings, and 1 relatively valuable Xianling flower. With only this much, this group of people is desperately chasing after her. How petty. Blue Autumn Yin stared at the complaining Renheim with wide eyes, and was speechless. These precious spirit herbs probably add up to millions of spiritual stones. With such a quantity, even he would chase after them. He also somewhat understood why this woman was so wealthy. The cultivator in the golden robe's face darkened, and he angrily said, You also heard what this woman said. How can you still cover up for such a shameless person? Blue Autumn Yin gently touched his forehead with one hand. With the other hand patting Renheim's shoulder, he said, A gentleman loves wealth, but with proper means of acquisition. Renheim bit her lip, saying, This spirit herb is crucial for me. If the adult won't help, I'll have to leave. Blue Autumn Yin sighed, and was about to turn around. Renheim hurriedly grabbed Blue Autumn Yin's hand. You can't leave without me. After all, we both have flesh and blood connections with you. How can you be so heartless? The 3 golden core cultivators looked at each other. Do they really have flesh and blood connections? Their relationship does seem quite deep indeed. They had the idea of capturing Blue Autumn Yin together. After all, this kid may also help hide the goods. When Blue Autumn Yin went crazy and spun in place, suddenly, amidst the venomous haze pervading the surroundings, dozens of hideous phantoms emerged from the mist. They looked like ghosts on the road to the underworld, emitting black smoke and staggering out of the venomous haze. Many cultivators turned and looked at each other. Everyone seemed puzzled by the appearance of such strange events. As the blurry fiendish figures in the venomous haze increased, the golden core cultivator coldly snorted as he glanced at Renheim, temporarily putting aside the grievances. He waved his hand to signal those golden core cultivators to intercept the dozen fiends coming out first before discussing further. At this moment, Blue Autumn Yun walked towards the fiend in the venomous haze. With a slight movement of her finger, Rinheim's dagger flew out and landed in her hand. Beside the cultivator in a golden robe was a young man, who was the previously mentioned San Yen. He had also never seen such a scene before, and felt quite horrified inside. If it weren't for the sake of preserving the reputation of the Soaring Fire sect, he would have retreated long ago. Dozens of fiends emerged from the venomous haze and launched a frenzied attack. Rinheim's face immediately paled. She didn't expect Blue Autumn Yun to face those fiends alone. She gritted her teeth and rushed forward quickly. She reached out to grab Blue Autumn Yun's arm, wanting to escape together. But she did not expect Blue Autumn Yun to be as strong as 1,000 pounds. He stood still in place without moving an inch. When Fiend was 100 steps away, Blue Autumn Yun suddenly opened his eyes. Rinheim suddenly felt like needles were pricking her back, causing her whole body to tremble. She couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat, staggering back 2 steps before falling to the ground. The aura of this person was far more terrifying than those fiends. Blue Autumn Yun gently placed the katana in front of him, pushing the back of the blade with his hand, its reflection showing him squinting his eyes. A white light bloomed in the air, spanning dozens of meters. The white light expanded into a terrifyingly large sword shadow, sweeping down to cut down dozens of oncoming fiends. Rinheim stood behind Blue Autumn Yun, widening her eyes as she looked at the massive sword shadow slashing down. Within several dozen meters around the sword shadow, the fiends that had not yet come into contact with it dissipated one after another, turning into black smoke. Even the fiend at the Golden Core completion cultivation level could not resist his single slashing attack, shattering and disappearing at a speed too fast for the naked eye to follow. In an instant, all the frenzied fiends charging forward were completely slain. The sword shadow continued forward, accompanied by a series of intense and piercing bursting sounds. In the distance within the line of sight, a rumbling collapse could be heard from the mountaintop. Several seconds later, the sword shadow finally dissipated. Everything within sight was leveled to the ground. All the cultivators present widened their eyes, unable to imagine what is happening before them. A single sword strike kills the Golden Core stage fiend in one move, turning the scene into flat ground within sight. Such power is truly terrifying. Blue Autumn Yun turned around and put the katana into Rinheim's hands. She gently pinched her face to help her close her mouth, which was open in surprise.